What's up, everyone? This is the List Bro, and today we are doing a discography ranking of Taylor Swift. Now, I am far from a Swiftie, but I have become a pretty big fan over the last few years of her music. I think she's really talented. She's got some good stuff. So, without further ado, let's get started and share my screen so we can do this tier list. So, we're going to go in chronological order here. The album we're going to be starting with is the debut album for Taylor, which, I would put in B tier. I rank all of these albums on a scale of 0 to 5, basically. So I would give this album 3.25 out of 5, um, which, could also be 6.5 out of 10. Um, I think there's some really good songs on here. This is definitely an overlooked album. It has one of my top 5 Taylor songs of all time, which is Teardrops on My Guitar, which is the song that introduced me to hers as a kid. It's not as country as some of the other songs on this album. I just think it's a really sentimental and sweet song. It has a lot of nostalgia for me. Um, the album as a whole, it's kind of inconsistent. Like, I don't really like the song Tim McGraw at all. I think it's actually probably one of her worst songs in her entire catalog, to be quite honest. But there's some bangers here. Some of the deep cuts are really good. So um, if we go to her track listing here on Wikipedia, uh, songs I liked overall would be Teardrops on My Guitar, A Place in This World, Cold as You, The Outside, which was a highlight for me, Tied Together with a Smile, Should Have Said No, Our Song, and A Perfectly Good Heart. The rest of them ranged from average to not so great, especially in the case of Tim McGraw. Um, our song was a pretty creative little song, definitely different. Um, there's some solid production on this album. This is her most country type of release. I'm not really into country music, but it's definitely a vibe. Her voice sounds good for the most part. I mean, her vocals are pretty immature here, but I don't know. I think this is a pretty cohesive effort as a whole. It doesn't outstay its welcome. Picture to Burn's kind of solid too, not bad. So yeah, definitely not her best album, but a solid start nonetheless. So continuing on here, we have her second album, Fearless, from 2008. I'm not really going to be covering the re-recorded, the Taylor versions, because number one, I haven't heard all of them, and we're focusing just on studio albums here. Maybe I'll go back and check out the re-recorded stuff some more once they're like all finished. So Fearless, I'm on the fence with. To me, it's close to an A, but I'm gonna put it ahead of B. It is ahead of the debut for sure, but I'm gonna give it the same rating, 3.25 out of 5, which could also be 6.5 as well out of 10. So this album is an improvement for sure, but there's actually a few things I don't like as much about it. Let's go to the track listing so I can list off the songs I like from this one. Some songs here that I liked that spoke to me were Fearless, Love Story, Hey Steven, You Belong With Me, Breathe, Tell Me Why, You're Not Sorry, Forever and Always, Change, and then on the deluxe edition, I also liked where is it? Yeah, Untouchable and Superstar. A Jump and Fall was decent too. So there's a few problems with this album. Number one, a lot of the songs are really long and kind of drag a little bit and overstay their welcome. A lot of the songs are really similar sounding, and while the production is good, it feels kind of stale and stagnant. Where I feel there was more variance on the debut with the instrumentation. Um, but on the other hand, her songwriting had come a long way from since the debut. There's definitely more like love songs and stuff. Where on the first one, there was definitely more angst and a little more heartbreak and that sort of thing. So the two big singles here, Love Story and You Belong With Me, I think they're good. I think she's had better singles and they've been kind of overplayed over the years. Um, Something else I was going to do is list my 3 favorite songs from each album. So for the debut, that would be Teardrops on My Guitar, The Outside, and Cold as You. And for Fearless, I'd say the three best songs on this album are Fearless, Change, and uh, I suppose Love Story. Um, a lot of people don't like Change. I think it's a really solid, triumphant song, and then the title track is just great. Not as many standouts for me on here, but it's a little bit more consistent than the debut, I'd say. So I'd put it a little higher than um, oh, the debut. I still think it's solid. Okay. Speak Now is fucking awesome. I'm gonna put it in S tier. I think it's one of her best albums. Um, a lot of people say it's sonically similar to Fearless, but I think it surpasses it in every way. So, this is the album that Taylor wrote every song by herself. So, um, she's definitely to be commended on that. Now, the songs are even longer on here than on Fearless, but it's not as much of a problem. The songs, even though they're like some of them are like 5, 6, 7 minutes, they don't drag. They feel um really solid throughout. So, uh, songs I liked from this one, I like every song on here, so I'm not even gonna read. The only one I didn't like is the deluxe track Hours. Wasn't crazy about that. All 14 of these songs on the standard edition fucking rule. Um, Enchanted is probably my favorite Taylor Swift song of all time. Just a beautifully crafted love song. Really more about like crushes and like romance and that sort of thing. And I love any like goth Taylor songs. That's why I'm also a big fan of Haunted as well. Anything that has that sort of like emo goth uh, sonic texture, I really am a fan of that sort of thing. Um, Mine, I think, is a better single than Love Story or You Belong With Me. Back to December's great song. Dear John's a little long, kind of drags, but it's not terrible. It's actually pretty enjoyable, at least in the beginning. Mean is different and kind of cool, and I like the message. Um, Better Than Revenge is awesome. I wish she wrote more songs like that. Um, I thought Last Kiss was a really sweet song, underrated. So, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen just for a moment because I'm gonna do something with Speak Now that I'm not doing with all of the albums. I'm going to actually rank each song from best to worst, and I do this when I give an album a 3.5 out of 5 or higher because that warrants the entire album to be ranked. So, oh, I forgot to give a rating. It's a 4.5 out of 5 for me, which, converts to a 9 out of 10. I think it's near flawless, and I love everything about it. This album fucking rules. Um, I don't want to give too much away about the list of what's coming up, but I'm gonna say it's her second best album. There's one album she has that I think is a little better, but yeah, so definitely 4.5 out of 10 for this one. So we're gonna read my track ranking here. So, like I said, best songs Enchanted, number two, Haunted. Then this is from best to worst. So Enchanted, Haunted, Mine, Last Kiss, Sparks Fly, The Story of Us, Back to December, Mean, Better Than Revenge, Speak Now, Never Grow Up, Superman, Innocent, Dear John, Long Live, If This Was a Movie, and Ours is Last. So yeah, um, I feel pretty good about ranking this album as high as I did. It's a lot better than Fearless. I mean, she had come a long way at this point. The production on it is amazing. Her voice is beautiful and angelic sounding, and I just feel like her artistry was pretty much at her peak here. And with the next album we're going to be talking about as well, which is Red. Um, I'm contemplating giving it S tier, but just because I don't think it's as good as Speak Now or another album we're going to be talking about later. So I'll give it an A. It's really good. It's kind of follows in a similar vein to Speak Now, except the country sort of vibe is gone for the most part, and now she's really venturing into more pop territory, mainly with the singles "We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together," "I Knew You Were Trouble," and "22." All songs which I think are solid. So let's go to the red track list so I can tell you which songs I liked. Now, unlike Speak Now, there were some songs I wasn't as crazy about, so let me read off what I did enjoy here. So I liked State of Grace quite a bit. I Knew You Were Trouble, All Too Well, 22, I Almost Do, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, Stay, 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 The Last Time, Sad, Beautiful, Tragic, Everything Is Changed. I kind of liked, except I fucking hate Ed Sheeran. Starlight, Begin Again, and The Moment I Knew. Oh, and Girl at Home was actually not bad either. So I like nearly everything from this album. Title track's decent too. So yeah, I think Taylor was definitely starting to change at this point and become the media juggernaut that she is today. She was becoming very popular around this time, where I don't want to say she was underground in the late 2000s, but she definitely wasn't quite a superstar yet. So it's really interesting to see her evolution over time. I will give Taylor a lot of credit because she definitely uh, changes with every album. No two albums are the same, and I think that's definitely to be commended from an artistic standpoint. So I'm gonna give this album a 4 out of 5, which can also be uh, translated into 8 out of 10. So yeah, let's. I also ranked every track best to worst for Red because it did pass that 3.5 rating. Um, So we're gonna read it from best to worst. So my favorite song on the album is "We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together." That might be controversial, but nostalgia may be part of it. I just think it's a fun song. So that's number one. Then two, "I Knew You Were Trouble," "State of Grace," "The Last Time," "I Almost Do," "Stay, Stay, Stay," "The Moment I Knew," 22, "Begin Again," "Starlight," "Red," "All Too Well," "Girl at Home," "Everything Has Changed," "Come Back, Be Here," "The Lucky One," "Treacherous," "Sad, Beautiful, Tragic," "Holy Ground." I put "Sad, Beautiful, Tragic" a little low. I don't know why. I actually really like that song. So I might have to change that at some point. She has so many songs. I admit sometimes it's hard to keep track of them all, but um, and just so you guys know, I do take the deluxe edition into account, but what's most important is the actual album. So it doesn't have as much of an impact, the deluxe songs, as the standard edition songs, as far as like the ranking itself is concerned. So let's move on to the next one here, 1989. This is her first official pop album back in 2014. I'm going to sandwich it right here between Fearless and the self-titled because it's getting the same rating as these two, 3.25 out of 5. So out of everything we have here, I like it a little more than the debut, but maybe not as much as Fearless. Those three albums are all kind of neck and neck, to be honest. So let's go to 1989 so I can share the tracks I liked. I liked Welcome to New York, Blank Space, Style, Out of the Woods, Shake It Off to some degree, I Wish You Would, Wildest Dreams, Clean, Wonderland, and You Are in Love. So, unlike the last two, there are some songs here that are hit or miss. I actually don't think Bad Blood or Shake It Off are the worst things here. They're tolerable. I hated them at the time, I admit, but they've both grown on me, especially Shake It Off isn't actually that bad. Um, so I think the let me see here. Um, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen again. I know I've been doing this, but it's because I have a Google Doc with all of these things listed, and it reveals all the other rankings of Taylor Swift. So um, let me just read this here. Okay, so basically, I have the best 3 songs of each album when I'm not doing a full like track by track ranking. So I'd say the 3 best songs here: number 1, Wildest Dreams; 2, Blank Space; and 3, Out of the Woods. And the worst song is All You Had to Do Was Stay. Was not a fan of that one at all. Um, oh, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but I'd say the worst song on Fearless was The Way I Loved You. It was just kind of mediocre, nothing special. But, as far as 1989 is concerned, and I will share this, little tidbit, I did, listen to some of the songs from Taylor's version. It's really not as good. The original is where it's at. So, this is an album that's grown on me over time. I really didn't like the poppy direction at this time, because it was disappointing. Because Speak Now and Red were freaking bangers, and even Fearless. So it's a little disappointing at the time to see her change into pop, but in retrospect, I see that it was the right decision for her, and there was actually some really good songs on this record. This may be her best pop album if we're not uh, considering Red a pop album. Um, Wildest Dreams is a gorgeous song. That's in my top 10 Taylor Swift songs for sure. Um, Now, I think a lot of people like it more now than when it came out at the time, but I've always been a fan of this one. I'm a sucker for anything dream pop and anything that makes you feel like you're in another world. Some really captivating lyrics here as well. Okay, so onto an album I'm not so big on, and I'm gonna go on record and say it's her worst album. Some people may disagree with that, but for me, Reputation is going in D tier. Um, I'm not gonna say this album sucks because it's not the worst thing. I'm gonna give it a 2.25 out of 5, which, is also a 4.5 out of 10 if you're doing it that way. But basically, there's only I can tell you right now, there's only 4 songs on the album I like, which would be Ready for It, Look What You Made Me Do, uh, Getaway Car, and New Year's Day. And New Year's Day I like because it doesn't really sound like something that's on this record. It sounds like it could be on one of her later ones, like Folklore or Evermore. So, yeah, this album's it's kind of overly long. Um, it's almost an hour. It's really repetitive. The dubstep sounds I'm not really feeling in most of these songs. It's cool on Ready for It, but by the time we got to Endgame, I was really over that heavy sort of electronic sound. And, I don't know, I think a lot of these songs play it too safe. A song like Delicate, which I don't really like or care about, honestly. I think it's boring. Um, some songs that were decent include King of My Heart and Dress, but they're not like my favorite things in the world. Um, Endgame would have been tolerable if it weren't for fucking Ed Sheeran once again and this other rapper, Future, that was in the song. Honestly, now I vibe with Taylor being like a bad bitch and all that. Like I liked Ready for It. I like her verse in Endgame. Look What You Made Me Do kind of slaps. But I don't know. If she wanted to have a really rebellious album, the album feels really safe and tame compared to what it could have been. I would have loved like a crazy experimental album. I understand this was experimental to some degree, 'cause it didn't have, like, the sugary pop goodness of 1989, but I don't know, for me, it really falls, flat. S She's trying to make some sort of statement, but I feel like it doesn't resonate all the way through, you know? Um, if we were gonna have this whole, like, mischievous, rebellious sort of feeling, I would have liked that to be maintained throughout the whole album because it's really only a few songs where we get that, uh like angsty version of Taylor. So I don't know. I think it was a missed opportunity in that regard. Um, I think the worst song on the album is "That's Why We Can't Have Nice Things." That song pissed me off because just really sucks. If I'm being honest. All right, let's continue here on to the next one. And Lover. It's a little better than Reputation. I'm gonna give it a 2.75 out of 5, which could also be 5.5 out of 10. I'm putting it in C tier. It's, it's alright. There's some songs I liked on it. Um, let's go to the article so I can tell you guys which ones I liked. I liked, I Forgot That You Existed, I Think He Knows, Paper Rings, Cornelia Street, Soon You'll Get Better, Afterglow, Me, and Daylight Was Okay. So a lot of people hate Me, but I actually think it's kind of a jam. I mean, it's nothing great, but I don't know. I think it's fun. I don't have a problem with a song like that. I actually think You Need to Calm Down was significantly worse. That's one I didn't really like. But so the biggest problem on this album is the excessive runtime. This album did not need 18 tracks. It really drags, and sometimes it gets really boring. Um, this, like, 5-song stretch from, like, Cruel Summer, Lover, The Man, and The Archer, bad. I don't like any of those songs. I mean, Cruel Summer is kind of tolerable, I feel it's overrated. This song, The Man, is horrible. It's one of the worst songs in her discography, if you ask me. Um, I think Paper Rings is a really sweet song, I liked it quite a bit. Cornelia Street was very meaningful. So I would say, yeah, the 3 best from this album are Paper Rings, Cornelia Street, and I Think He Knows. And yeah, The Man's definitely the worst song from the album. So yeah, I mean, I went into this one with low expectations. I figured I was gonna hate it, but um, it wasn't so bad. I mean, I got kind of tired of it by the end, but yeah, 2.75 out of 5 um, for Lover. Okay, now here we go. This is Taylor Swift's best album in my opinion, and it's the album that got me into Taylor. So we're gonna put it in S tier, even ahead of Speak Now. Um, I don't think a lot of people will disagree with me on this. I think objectively, we can say this is Taylor's best written album. Some people might point to Speak Now, but we're getting a version of Taylor 10 years later who's more mature and experienced and has better songwriting techniques and has a better voice, if you ask me, than she did 10 years ago. So, um, this is one of those rare albums that I like every single song, except Mad Woman, but even that, I don't hate it. It's just, I don't think I'm the targeted audience for that song. But you know, a 16, 17 song album that's that consistent, that doesn't have any misses at all. Oh, I forgot about The Last Great American Dynasty doesn't really do much for me either. But those two songs aside, my God, this is some of her most like magical and deep songwriting. So, um, I mean, what a change. I mean, I love the subtlety in the music and how it's not these loud, bombastic electronic beats anymore. You have more like just nuanced pianos and acoustic guitars at times. And I love all of the vocal effects. I think the production here is phenomenal. Her best produced album by far. This is such a relaxing album, but it also the lyrics are deep and they hit home. And this album doesn't feel long at all. It's over an hour, but its time certainly goes by fast. Um, I don't know if I said this already, but I'm giving it a 4.75 out of 5. It's basically perfect. That could also be a 9.5 out of 5. Um, I'm not giving it a 5 out of 5 just because there's maybe like 15 to 20 albums in my life that I've heard that are the best and are reserved for 5.5. It takes a lot to get a 5.5 out of me, but this is about as close as you can get. So, um, it might be in the top 50 albums I've ever heard. So, with that said, I did go ahead and rank the album from best to worst. So, um, track ranking here would be number one for me is My Tears Ricochet. Then number two, Mirror Ball. Seven, Cardigan, Invisible String, August, The One, Hoax, Betty, Exile, Epiphany, Peace, Illicit Affairs, The Lakes, This Is Me Trying, The Last Great American Dynasty, and Mad Woman. Okay. Oh yeah, and This Is Me Trying. It wasn't my favorite. I felt like it was kind of average, but it tried something new, and I can't knock it too much for that. Um, this like 4-song stretch from My Tears Ricochet to August is just beautiful. 4 of her best songs in her entire discography, and all for different reasons. So, you know, Mirror, I'm gonna talk a little more specifically about some of these songs because I just think this album's phenomenal. Um, Mirror Ball is a great combo of like dream pop and some of those more like cathartic sounds. And mixed with like subtle folk music as well. Um, My Tears Ricochet is a beautiful like goth gospel song with really haunting vibes throughout. Um, Seven's a really sweet song. Her vocals sound great in it. And then August is already a classic and one of the best songs of the 2020s, in my opinion. Same goes for Cardigan. Just a really different style for her. I totally dig it. I didn't like Exile that much on first because of Bon Iver, but it's really grown on me. I think it's um, really powerful now. Invisible String, I think, is one of the best songs in her whole career. This album has like 6 or 7 songs that I think are like a career high. I would say Cardigan, these four, and Invisible String. So that's Invisible String is one that really spoke to me and resonated with me over the last few years. Um, some of these songs towards the end, like Epiphany, Peace, and Hoax, they're really like minimalistic, but all super good. And um, I really like the way she's presenting these songs on this album. Um, Betty's a little more country. I thought it was a nice change of pace, incorporating a more country song in there. So I'll never get tired of this album. This is one for the ages and definitely her best album as far as I'm concerned. So, oh, and the Lakes wasn't bad as like a deluxe edition sort of thing. This is one of those albums too I liked from the minute I heard it. It didn't even have to grow on me. I just pretty much knew from the second I heard the song The One that this is going to be different. Okay, so we're on to Evermore. And I really wanted to like this album, and I do to some extent, but it's a bit disappointing compared to Folklore. It kind of sounds like a Folklore B-sides album, which isn't a bad thing inherently, but for me, it kind of falls short compared to, like, these 3 albums. So, I'm gonna put it in where do I even put it? I don't even think I like it as much as the debut, so I'm gonna put it in, like, very low B tier. It's on the borderline of being a C. Um, I gave it a 3 out of 5, and that was bumped up from my initial rating of 2.75 because this is an album where the length really starts to creep in. It's as long as Folklore, but for some reason, time goes by a lot faster when you're listening to Folklore. I was just waiting for Evermore to end, to be honest, and I've heard it 4 times now. I really tried to force myself to like it, and, um, so basically, Willow is in, like, my top 5 favorite Taylor songs as well. I think that is a beautiful angelic song that would have fit right at home on Folklore, but everything else is either above average to just there's nothing really terrible on this album except Champagne Problems, which fucking sucks. That's the worst song on this album, but everything else, there's nothing bad or offensive. It's just I don't know. Um, to be honest, if Willow was a single and this album didn't exist, I wouldn't really care too much. I mean, it's a nice little addition to her discography, but um, some of you are gonna think my rating's low, but I'm sorry, this is not a 4 out of 5 album. It's a 3 for me, which could be a 6 out of 10. Um, so I think the 3 best songs on here are Willow, uh, Right Where You Left Me, and Coney Island. Right Where You Left Me should have been on the album. Also, It's Time to Go. Those are 2 of the better cuts here, especially Right Where You Left Me, I thought had really, thought-provoking lyrics. Other songs I liked on here were Gold Rush, Happiness, Dorothea, Ivy, Cowboy Like Me, Long Story Short, Marjorie, and, uh, that's about it. So, yeah, second half is better because okay, Champagne Problems not good. The main thing about it, I don't like the way she sings the chorus, which is like champagne problems. It's just a really deadpan delivery, and it just rubs me the wrong way for some reason. 'Tis the Damn Season, not great. Tolerate It, I thought was boring. Nobody, No Crime. It's just kind of silly, not really crazy about it. And Closure feels like a filler song. Um, so yeah, and these songs I mentioned that I liked, like Happiness and Dorothea, they're good and I enjoy them, but they're not like as memorable as the folklore songs, you know what I mean? Um, and I liked Evermore with Bon Iver, but not as much as Folklore. I think Bon Iver sounds really bad here compared to In Exile. So, yeah, it is what it is. Maybe Folklore raised the bar too high. And when you take some of these songs in isolation, like I would listen to Cowboy Like Me, but it's just when you get to that point on the album, you're like 11 tracks in, you're not caring as much how good the song is because you just want it to end because there's been a lot of like crap before it. So yeah, Cowboy Like Me is an example of a song I like. Same with Long Story Short, actually, but just those songs were hurt by their placement on the album and how it's really like backloaded because some of the songs in the beginning I didn't really like. So yeah, in isolation, some of these songs are very good. Willow is definitely the highlight here. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on Evermore. So last but not least, we have her most recent studio album, Midnight. Um, so this is kind of a difficult one for me, but I have to put it in D tier as well. It's better than Reputation. It's not her worst album, but I can't even say it's as good as Lover. I'm gonna give it 2.5 out of 5. That's 5 out of 5 basically. So let's go into the Midnight's Wikipedia page, and I'll tell you which songs I liked. Um, the I'll tell you my three favorites on the album. So number one was Labyrinth. That's honestly in my top 20 Taylor Swift songs. It sounds a lot like a folklore song to me, so it has that going for it. Um, the two would be The Great War, which should have been on the album, and three, Sweet Nothing. So if you couldn't tell, I really like the more minimalistic tracks that are like, I don't want to say somber, but just kind of more relaxed and mellow and have some sort of like ethereal vibe to it and stuff. So, um, yeah, other songs I liked besides those three are Lavender Haze, uh, Bejeweled, and Karma. Bigger Than the Whole Sky as well, Glitch. And Dear Rita was okay, but it was basically like a shittier version of Labyrinth. Um, and the worst song on the album for me is Vigilante shit. Oh my god, that's the worst song of her whole career. We're gonna talk about that more in a minute, but Midnight Rain in Question kind of grew on me over time. Um, I hated them both when I first heard it, but I actually just re-listened to the album today, so they weren't as bad. This stretch here, and this happened with Lover as well. Tracks 2 to 5 are fucking horrible. I mean, especially Snow on the Beach. That song is so annoying, and I know people are praising that song. You're on Your Own, Kid, but I thought that one was trash too. Antihero was a very underwhelming lead single. Unpopular opinion, I think it's her worst lead single ever. Um, actually, no, it's better than Tim McGraw. If Tim McGraw was the lead single, I don't recall. Yes, Me is better than Antihero. I said it. And then we got Mastermind here, which, is a decent little song, maybe below average in isolation, but it rubs me the wrong way because I'm gonna sound like a Swiftie talking about meanings of songs here, but like I don't know, I just feel like it undermines the whole message of Invisible String because that song Invisible String from Folklore is talking about a story where um, basically two people who met, it's fate or it's luck or it's that sort of thing, but here she's talking about love in a more way like she manipulated like um a relationship or a love interest and sort of used these tactics to lure someone in. So I don't know if I like that. It's a contradiction to that song, Invisible String. But yeah, so as far as the album itself as a whole, it's uh it's pretty boring. I think the deluxe edition actually saved it a little. I would have rated it much lower. It probably would have been a 2 out of 5 to be honest. So this had potential to be her worst album, but I did factor in the 3 AM edition, and there's not a bad song on the 3 AM edition. I actually wasn't crazy about Would've, Should've, Could've, and Dear Reader seemed like a rehash of Labyrinth, but Labyrinth's also my favorite song on the album, so that wasn't a big deal. Um, and Paris was, but, you know, I just don't know about this whole, like they call it, like, bedroom pop. That was the genre I saw for it, and I don't know, I think it's kind of lame. The production on the album isn't really that great, and, it doesn't drag like Reputation does. It actually goes by pretty quick, but there's some real career lows on this album, so I had to place it in D tier where I did. Um, Now understand I'm putting it in D tier in comparison to all the other Taylor Swift albums, but realistically, it's probably like a C tier album, seeing as there was some stuff I liked. But we gotta talk about Vigilante shit. Some of you may disagree with this. I don't know how many people liked the song, but that song was just fucking lazy, and the lyrics are atrocious. And I don't know, maybe once again, just like with Mad Woman, I'm not the targeted audience for a song like that, but I just thought it was really pandering to that sort of crowd, if you know what I mean. And the instrumentation is garbage, and Taylor's deadpan delivery is just awful. So yeah, I think I vote that as the worst song of her career. Um, so yeah, basically that concludes my tier list. Here's my ranking here. So if we're doing it from best to worst, 10th favorite Taylor Swift album, or the worst one would be Reputation, then Midnight's, Lover, Evermore, the debut, 1989, Fearless, Red, Speak Now, Folklore. I think I have the debut higher than anyone I've ever seen. People usually put it like 9 or 10, maybe number 8. And it's not even like a great album. It's good, but I just think everything else here is below it is underwhelming, except Evermore. It's just Evermore as a whole album doesn't really work for me, but I can cherry pick songs I like off of it. These 3 albums here, Lover and especially Midnights and Reputation, really didn't do much for me. Um, and 1989 I hated back in the day, but I've come around on that one. So I think Folklore and Speak Now are her peak artistry. Red is right up there too. And then I think Fearless has a lot of strong points as well, but the production on it is kind of samey. And like for instance, Love Story and You Belong With Me might as well be the same song. They're both good, but I just wish there was a little more variance on that album. Like that's why I like a song like Breathe. It really was a nice change of pace. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. That's my ranking of Taylor Swift's discography. I'm gonna be doing more of these in the future. I wanted to start with her. Um, so what I did too was I compiled all of the averages and sort of divvied it up, and I'm giving every artist a ranking. So my ranking system indicated that the ranking for Taylor Swift would be 6.9 out of 10. That is not a joke. That is legitimate because it's she got 34.5 possible points out of 50. And if you divide that up, it is what it is. It's 6.9 out of 10. Um, so, yeah, I think Taylor Swift is a great artist. Oh, by the way, for those of you who go on Rate Your Music, which is one of my favorite music resources, my score for her would be 3.46. which is a pretty high average. If you see an album on Rate Your Music that's 3.46, that means it's really good and enjoyable, um, as far as the rating itself goes. But anyways, that's my list here. Taylor Swift has become quite an icon over the years, and ever since Folklore came out, I've been really impressed with her, and I wanted to check out more. There hasn't been an album for me other than Folklore or Speak Now, and maybe Red to some extent, that really resonated with me. She's had some good stuff otherwise, but those three albums I think are her peak. So her top five, the ones I'd put in like the best half of her discography are Folklore, Speak Now, Red, Fearless, and 1989. The other ones, a couple other ones are good too, and then the two at the bottom, Midnights and Reputation, not for me really. Um, but even on those, there are still some okay songs. So that concludes the ranking. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on Taylor Swift and what your favorite albums or songs by her are. Like I said, there will be more discography rankings to come in the future. I'm the List Bro, and thank you for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.